Whether it's a hot time in Florida or a rainy night in Georgia,
Looking for trouble?
it's the perfect time for the TCBCast, an unofficial Elvis fan podcast.
Oh, yes, sir. Good to see you go, folks. This Black Fix bring you the hottest thing in the country, real hot and blue, coming to WHB in Memphis, Tennessee.
With your hosts, Justin Gosman and Gurdip Ladar. The TCBcast is on the air.
Welcome to TCBcast, an unofficial Elvis Presley fan podcast. I'm Justin Gosman.
I'm Gurdip Ladar.
Gurdip, how are you doing this week?
Doing good. Still in isolation. Mm-hmm. Still at home. You know.
I think we're all going to be that way for a while.
You think?
Yeah.
You think it's going to last a bit?
I do. Well, I mean, I was just looking. Our governor here in South Dakota was having a press conference last night, and she was talking about we have to keep the same mitigation measures that we're under, which, by the way, right now does not include a stay-at-home order here. But if we keep it at the same level we're at, they're projecting that we have to do this through August. And if so
August, wow.
Yeah.
I heard July, but yeah, it could be August.
Keeps being pushed back.
What, New York? It's crazy there.
Yeah, it is. So hopefully all of our listeners are staying safe out there. You're just comfortably relaxing at home and staying safe, staying at home and
I wonder
doing all
if,
you
as
can.
I was talking about podcast listening habits, have they changed?
Yeah, are you
Because
listening to more?
Yeah, or less.
Or less, yeah. I know that for people who like listening to TCBcast, we dropped some bonus content, so hopefully you guys got a chance to listen to that. Was not the bonus content we intended to drop. On what was it, Thursday? Yeah, Thursday night, Ryan and I sat down and did an hour discussion on Elvis home recordings, and it just went out the window. So, yeah.
That's the worst, when you have a nice discussion and then you go back to listen to it and you're like, it's not there, it's gone.
I know, it was terrible, and it was a really, really good discussion. Thankfully, Ryan is being nice enough to come back for kind of a take two of that, so everyone will get a chance to eventually hear that discussion in some form or another. But, yeah, and then you
think you can recreate that conversation?
So now that he's heard, because he actually hadn't heard a lot of the home recordings in a long, long time, so he was actually reacting on the fly to them as I was playing snippets, and some of them he had not heard in so long.
You were doing it live, like you were playing and discussing. Nice.
But so yeah, some of the spontaneity won't be there because he'll have now heard them, but it'll be like a normal episode where we've both done research. So
yes, okay, cool.
Yeah. So and then you and I are going to do a bonus content probably this week as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So do we want to hint them in on what it is, or do we want to let it be a surprise?
I mean, you can talk. You can let them know.
Okay. Well, it's what is it?
Tom Jones.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Tom Jones. There was one of our listeners in one of their emails was asking about why we don't talk enough about Tom Jones. So
we're like, we don't like him.
Yeah. It's like, no, we do like him. In fact, we're going to do a little bonus content on Tom Jones. So, but we do have other listener feedback this week.
Nice.
Some of it in response to the ETA episode, the April Fool's Day episode. One was from Perry, who's written to the show before. He says, "Hey, Justin, hope all is well with you." He left you out.
I know.
He says,
I don't matter.
He says, "I'm listening to when you were talking about the ETAs and talking about Orion. That is his real voice. I used to have real video from his home of him sitting at his table doing karaoke. His voice is so real, and I believe the most close to Elvis." So apparently,
Harry, where did you get this home video that no one else seems to have?
Yeah.
Did you sneak in somehow?
Maybe. Alan also wrote in on the ETA episode. He says, "I listened to the Impersonator ETA podcast last night. For an hour afterwards, I sat on the floor of the corner of my room, hugging my knees and rocking back and forth and chanting, 'Please make it stop! Please make it stop!'"
Exactly.
You mentioned how cringy the Ronnie McDowell song is, and I agree about those types of songs, but it might be an interesting idea to do a show about the non-cringy Elvis references in songs, like Walking in Memphis, Black Velvet by Elena Miles, or Elvis Presley Blues by Gillian Welch, or any others you guys probably know. Anyway, thank you for an entertaining podcast.
Doesn't in Free Fallin' there's an Elvis reference?
There is, yeah. Well, I mean, there's one line, so it's not like it's a substantial... It's an extended reference.
Still, petty.
It literally
still adds that.
It literally just says she loves Elvis, and that's it. So
I think or does she say she's crazy about Elvis?
You're crazy about Elvis, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sentiment.
That's my one reference.
Evan writes in and says, "Hey, Justin and Gurdip, I like all the other TCB cast. I was just wondering if you could do a full-length episode on Conway Twitty. He was a guy born in Mississippi like Elvis. His song, It's Only Make Believe, was so good that people thought it was Elvis because the Jordanaires were on backup vocals. I heard you mention Felton Jarvis and remembered that Conway did a version of My Baby Left Me on ABC Paramount that Felton had produced, and it was backed with Such a Night. I just wanted to message you and send a request, Evan."
Oh, nice. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's interesting that he brings up Conway Twitty because you're going to be talking about Conway Twitty soon. That's a little hint about trivia.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay. Tommy says, and this is actually in response to our songs of the week. Well, in particular, one song of the week from the last episode. He says, "Justin and Gurdip, I am sorry, but I'm going to have to call you guys out here." Smiley face. "As someone, I can't recall who, once said, 'Don't be cruel,' you can imagine how distraught I was after listening to last week's episode. Woman Without Love has been, and always will be one of my favorite Elvis songs. I would go as far as to place it in my all-time favorite Elvis album tracks. Definitely top 10. I've lost count of the amount of times I've played it, literally hundreds. Originally on vinyl, cassette, CD, and then back to vinyl again. I've played it on cheap one-speaker record players, really good sound systems, car stereos, dodgy shoebox cassette players, Walkmans, MP3s, and even the short-lived mini disc, and I've enjoyed it every time. To hear one of my all-time favorite Elvis tracks being given such a verbal bashing by two Elvis experts was really upsetting, but I'm sure I'll get over it."
Oh, that's you. That's across your bow.
Well, I mean, you were not completely innocent.
I mean,
on that.
I didn't pick it. As I slowly step away from you.
Leave me hanging here.
The lyrics, of course. I only had issues with the lyrical content.
Yeah, both of us thought it was a really good performance. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But he says, "Keep up the good work. Your podcast is one of the best Elvis ones out there, and I've listened to most of them. Take care, guys, and stay safe, Tommy." Thank you, Tommy. I really, we really appreciate the very kind comments.
We were saying that, these are just our songs. It's all subjective.
Absolutely.
So we're not the be all end all of these guys are right.
No, not at all, not at all. Yeah. And then Hugh, who regularly writes into us on Twitter, actually sent us an email. So I thought I'd give that a read since he's always full of a bunch of useful information.
Yep, you're always full of it, Hugh.
Yeah. Hugh.
Go on.
At him. Hi guys, fab episode this week, and I just wanted to add a few things that may be of interest, though. As I mentioned on Twitter, Elvis impersonators aren't really my thing, but I loved your conversation. I have a question, first of all, and I do have an answer, although it may not be the answer. What do you think was the first film, Elvis the movie aside, to feature a character wearing an Elvis jumpsuit? I may have raised this question before on FECC, so apologies if it's something we've touched on before, but have a think. I don't know.
So wait, he's saying what is the first movie to have a character wear a jumpsuit like Elvis's?
Yeah, what do we think was the first character?
Is it the John Carpenter one?
I mean...
About Elvis?
Yeah.
Or does that not count?
No, I don't think that would count. Well, shoot. Man, that's a tough one, because there really weren't any...
I mean, if you want to be technical about it, the first person to wear a jumpsuit on film wasn't that Elvis?
Yeah, and that's the way it is.
Oh, yeah, that's the way it is. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it is. So that would be my answer, Hugh, is that's the way it is. Because you said Elvis the movie aside, so I'm gonna throw in there that's the way it is. Yeah. It's gonna be my answer.
There you go.
I know.
Who was the first person to wear a jumpsuit on stage?
Oh, I have no idea. I'd have to go look. I know Elvis was one of the first. Because jumpsuits became so big in the 70s.
it evolved for him because 68 he wore the leather thing. That was too hot. And then he went to that
kind of karate type of... Yeah, it was like a karate gi, but adapted for, the stage. And then that sort of shifted into the jumpsuit.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then he also mentioned a few recommendations. Check out the episode of the TV series Sledgehammer called All Shook Up, in which Sledge has to go undercover at a famous school of Elvis impersonators after 15 competition-winning impersonators are murdered within a 3-week period. You may have to watch the pilot to get the flavor of the show if you've never seen it. The estate thought the concept was disrespectful and wouldn't allow Elvis's music to be used, and yet they endorsed Elvis Presto's bizarre halftime show at the Super Bowl in 1989. There's also a 1960 film called Let's Make Love, which was directed by George Cukor, I think is how you pronounce the name, and stars Marilyn Monroe and Yves Montand. In the film, there's an Elvis-inspired segment that he may have been considered for, given the many cameos here, such as Bing Crosby, Milton Berle, and Gene Kelly, in which the famous stars have to teach Montand their skills. Also, check out Jonathan Ross's 1991 documentary Viva Elvis, which is on YouTube in parts. Young Bruno Mars and his dad are interviewed here, and he's seen performing on stage, whilst Elvis is also interviewed, and his video for In the Ghetto is shown, if memory serves me right. Keep up the good work, guys, and stay safe. Love what you do, Hugh.
Nice, excellent.
Yeah, and I've seen that documentary, the Viva Elvis. It's interesting because they have, like he mentioned, Bruno Mars is interviewed, and he's still so little and just freaking adorable. Yes. And I love how they kind of they edit back and forth between like some of his performances, and then there's like this little old lady sitting in the audience clapping along, and she's like getting off on this little 5-year-old being Elvis. It's so bizarre, nice. So bizarre. Well, that was all we have for listener feedback. Thank you, everyone, for sending in your comments. And if you want to shoot us any messages, where can they do that, Gurdip?
TCBcast@gmail.com.
Great. And what's next? Trivia?
Well, just a quick news item about Bill Withers I thought we can mention.
Oh, yeah. That was really unfortunate. He passed away a few days ago.
81.
Yeah. You were telling me that your wife...
that was the funniest thing.
Interesting reaction upon hearing the news of his death.
Yeah, I was like, so she comes down, and I was like, oh, Bill Withers passed away. And she's like, who's Bill Withers? I'm like, oh my God. I was just shaking my head. And then I was just like, Alexa, play Bill Withers, songs by Bill Withers. And the first song that comes on is Lean on Me, and she's like, oh, I love this song. And then I was like, next song, Alexa. And the next song was like Just the Two of Us. She's like, oh, I love this song. And then Ain't No Sunshine. Oh, I love this song. And then she goes on to proceed to post on Facebook how he's passed away, and she's heartbroken. I'm like, you didn't know who he was. I had to tell you.
Right?
And I know hey, I ought to leave the young thing alone, but ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
We talked about him was it a few weeks ago during that Billboard episode? Was that song Use Me?
Yeah, he was doing what was the song that he did?
Use Me.
Yeah, Use Me. Yeah, and that was great. Very sexy song.
R.I.P. Bill Withers. Although he had nothing to do with this COVID. This was different.
No, it was just old age.
Yeah.
So unfortunately. Complications from, getting older in years. And that's, like we've been talking about the last couple of years, we're getting to that point where a lot of those musicians from the 50s, 60s, and now we're going to start getting into the 70s. They're
right.
They're going to be leaving us.
They are. All right. Well, let's head on to trivia now. All right, so number one. For some reason, we've been talking about this album a lot recently, but anyway, Raised on Rock. 2 songs from this album were recorded at Elvis's home in Palm Springs, rather than Stax. Can you name these two songs? Now I got you. Now either you know it, or I can give you some multiple choice.
I think Sweet Angeline was one, but I'm not sure of the other. Am I correct?
How about if I give you multiple choice, and then you can decide.
Okay.
Okay. So A, is it I Miss You and Are You Sincere? Is it B, Find Out What's Happening and Girl of Mine? Is it C, Sweet Angeline, For Old Time's Sake? Or D, If You Don't Come Back, Just a Little Bit? Two songs that were recorded in his home in Palm Springs rather than Stax.
So what was the one that was accompanying Sweet Angeline?
For Old Time's Sake.
I'm going to have to say that it's... So wait, you're giving me like 8 different songs, or are they?
Well, because there's two. Yeah,
together?
these are 8 different songs, and because these two go together, they recorded them at Palm Springs home rather than Stax.
Okay, then I guess
that's why I'm giving you 2.
I guess it's got to be For Old Time's Sake and Sweet Angeline.
You are incorrect.
I'm incorrect.
I Miss You and Are You Sincere were the 2 songs recorded at his home rather than Stax.
Are you sincere when you say I love you? If I could, I would tell you I'm lonesome tonight, dear. Oh, I miss you and I wish you were here.
Okay, hang on. I got to look this up because I am pretty sure that Sweet Angeline was recorded at home. Hang on.
Please, cut this out, though.
Hang on. Let's see. Okay, Control F. Sweet Angeline. Okay, July 25th, 26th. The track was recorded at Stax Studio, but the vocal overdub was done September 22nd, 23rd, 1973, Elvis Presley's residence, Palm Springs, California. Keith Flynn's site says.
But the other one was recorded. Both were recorded at home. The whole thing, not just the vocals.
I can see it.
On a technicality, you are incorrect.
On the technicality, I am partially correct.
Well, that's true. How about if I give you partial marks because half of it was
because I knew Sweet
home.
Angeline.
Okay, well,
The reason why I know that is I really, really like Sweet Angeline, and
really?
And I like how the story of those bonus songs that they recorded the tracks for, but Elvis never recorded the vocal for. Stuff like "The Wonders You Perform," which we talked about last episode, I think, because of the song of the week. Jerry Chestnut wrote that, and then what was the "Good, Bad, But Beautiful," and then there was a 4th one. I don't remember what it was called, but they're on one of the FTDs. In fact, I think it's on the Raised on Rock FTD. They're interesting listens.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's head on to number 2.
Okay.
Teresa Brewer, who you recently talked about during the discussion of Till I Waltz Again with You, recorded 2 other songs that Elvis also sang. One was early in his career, the other one was in the 70s. Can you name these 2 songs?
One was For the Heart. And I believe... Didn't she do My Happiness?
No.
The
2 that I got were Tweedledee and Pledging My Love.
Tweedledee. I'm as happy as can be. Forever, my darling, our love will be true. Always and forever, I love just you.
I'm pledging my love. No, I'm sure she did For the Heart. Let me check that out. Because wasn't that a song of the week that I did?
I don't know.
Hang on. I'm pretty sure.
Ken, what is this?
Teresa Brewer, For the Heart. Okay, hang on. Let me just pull this audio in here real quick. Because guess what? I'm flipping right.
Well, I can play, but I can't win. And the weather's looking mighty grim. For the heart that just can't love no one but you. Evening shadows make me blue. When each weary day is through. How I long to be with you, my happiness.
I mean, I did that as Song of the Week. That's why I knew that.
So I think I need to do more
so
research.
your question was wrong.
Kind of. Oh, I did say she didn't do. Well, I said she did 2 other songs. I didn't say these are the exclusive ones.
Only 2. Yeah. Okay. Sure. We'll let that one.
I am still correct. Okay, so let's go on to number 3. Now we know Conway Twitty had a hit with the song "Lonely Blue Boy" in late 1959.
Yeah.
Which was originally called "Danny" by Elvis from King Creole, but unreleased. The following year, the song will be the title track of Conway's album "Lonely Blue Boy." This album would also feature 3 other Elvis songs: "Just Because," "Blue Moon," and can you name the 3rd song? I got multiple choice here for you.
Okay, that would be great because I'm pretty sure I don't have a clue.
Is it A, "Don't Be Cruel," B, "Love Me Tender," C, "Teddy Bear," D, "Heartbreak Hotel," or E, "Don't"?
I'm gonna take a shot in the dark and say don't.
Well, since my baby left me, well, I found a new place to dwell. It's down at the end of Lonely Street at Heartbreak Hotel where I'll be. Oh, I'll be so lonely, baby. Oh, so lonely. Well, I'll be so lonely I could die.
Incorrect.
Okay.
Heartbreak Hotel was the 3rd song that he did.
No idea on that one. So
yeah, I thought maybe you could kind of figure it out.
I mean, "Don't" kind of sounds like a song that he would sing, though.
Yeah, that's why I put it in there. I was trying to trick you. But he did do "Just Because," "Blue Moon," and then obviously "Lonely Blue Boy." So technically there's 4 Elvis songs on that album.
Well, is "Blue Moon" really an Elvis song if he's not doing it in Elvis's style? Like Raul Malo does?
Still, it is a song that Elvis performed.
True.
Okay, number 4. What was the very last song Bill Black recorded with Elvis?
Ooh. That's a good one. Oh, boy. Well, that would have had to have been in the 50s, eh?
You think?
He wasn't at the 58 stuff, was he? Because those were the Nashville studio players. Let's see, was it as early as King Creole, or was it there was some studio stuff kind of in between where he cut like "Wear My Ring Around Your Neck," because that was kind of in between there. Was it "Wear My Ring Around Your Neck"?
Well, that was the last session that he did with Elvis, but the actual last recording was Danny at the Paramount Soundstage in Hollywood, February 11th,
Lonely Blue Boy.
1958.
Lonely Blue Boy.
Exactly. See, that's why these 2 questions are together.
I'm so afraid of tomorrow. So tired of today. They say that love is the answer. But love never came my way.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not do as well, but I did own you on a couple of your own questions.
Well,
so.
we still have one more.
Oh, I have one more? Dang it.
I know. Stop jumping the gun. Also, along with Danny, they also recorded "Steadfast, Loyal, and True" at the soundstage. So those were the last songs.
The album version?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so number 5. Now, we know the 1965 film "Tickle Me" contained previously released material.
Yeah.
Some dating back to 1960. From the following songs in the film, now these aren't all the songs, but from the following songs, can you tell me which one was the newest? Is it A, "Night Rider"? Is it B, "Such an Easy Question"? Is it C, "I Feel I've Known You Forever"? D, "Slowly But Surely"? Or E, "It Feels So Right"? Out of those, which one was the newest? And I'm doing air quotes newest because
yeah, they were all older. I know it wasn't "It Feels So Right." So
it's kind of tough.
Gotta be,
you got to know. You got to know which order these came in.
It's either "Such an Easy Question" or "Slowly But Surely," but I'm not sure which. Hang on.
Fine.
Actually, I literally am going to do that. So honor system here, but heads is going to be such an easy question. Slowly but surely is going to be tails. I guess it doesn't matter. Tails. So
What was tails?
Slowly but surely.
Is that your final answer?
I guess that's what the coin says.
And the coin is right.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
Slowly but surely, I'm gonna wear you down. Slowly but surely, I'm gonna bring you round to my way of thinking, my way of kissing, my way of loving. Slowly but surely, I'm gonna make you mine.
I could have just as easily have gone for such an easy question,
Yeah.
which I really like. That's our trivia theme.
Yeah, it is. Slowly but Surely was May 27th, 1963, and it was previously released on the Fun and Acapulco album as a bonus song. And then Such an Easy Question was the previous year, 62, March 18th.
Okay.
Knight Rider was 61.
Yeah.
I Feel I've Known You Forever was also 62, but March 19th, and Feels Alright, 1960. And that's trivia. So you did well. The first two questions had an asterisk beside them, though.
Right.
But otherwise, yeah, you did fine.
I did okay. So. Yeah. All right. So, what's our main topic this week? This is a topic that does not need an asterisk by it. This is a great album. What are we doing?
Back in Memphis.
Yeah, finally. We've I think just kind of sidebar to conversation have mentioned that we both have had really strong feelings about this album in the past, and we finally are getting around to doing it.
I always say the two Back albums are my favorite. Elvis is Back and Back of Memphis. These are the 1 and 2. I don't know which one. Maybe I'll decide at the end of our discussion which one I like better. But these two are always like. Now this was released as a double LP called From Memphis to Vegas, and then From Vegas to Memphis. But a better double LP would have been Elvis is Back and then Back in Memphis.
Right.
That'd be a supreme. But what do you guys? What do you think? What do you think about this double album? The way it was released.
So for me, the way that I have always kind of thought of this album is that I feel they should have been issued separately from the start,
the get-go. Yes.
From the get-go, because that live album, great as it is, really stands on its own. It doesn't need the Back in Memphis on there, and Back in Memphis actually gets hampered, I think, by being included next to this very strong live album. You can't really take it on its own 2 feet.
It's just thrown in there.
Yeah. And what that's done is that, to me, that's made it. I think the perception has been that it's a weaker album because of they didn't feel that it was strong enough to release on its own. It had to be backed with had to be included on this double album. No, not at all.
I don't know. I don't understand. It's really dumb.
It is extremely dumb. It is dumbfounding.
I don't also get the naming convention of this album. Like the last album was called From Elvis in Memphis.
Yeah. So
why would you? Yeah.
This would be the sequel. So From Elvis in Memphis is the first one. He's in Memphis, and then he goes back to Memphis in the second album.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the original double LP's naming convention.
Oh, from Memphis to Vegas, Vegas to Memphis.
Yeah, it's like, how confusing is that for people? Like, they're like, wait, didn't I buy this? And you got to look carefully. You're like, no, this is Memphis to Vegas. And then from Vegas, he goes back to Memphis.
Well, that's why when they were eventually later separated out, they were actually just called Elvis in Person at the International Hotel and Back in Memphis, rather than the. But yeah, I totally hear you there.
And then also, I like to even pick on the album name, like the name Back in Memphis. I don't care for that title.
I actually like that because you're thinking of it. You're thinking of it separately, I think. But like I said, I view this as a sequel album to From Elvis in Memphis.
Like, can we get rid of the whole naming convention of adding Memphis? Like, call it something else. Like, once was good, but this is like 3 times now. I mean, just call it a perfect title. I would give it is Elvis Without Love. Perfect.
Ooh.
That would be excellent title.
Really good because it's thematically appropriate for this album.
Exactly. This whole theme of the album is downtrodden, like, morose.
It's lost loves.
Yes.
It's broken
call
hearts.
It Elvis Without Love, and
Man.
you're referencing one of the best songs on the album.
You're on fire, dude. Okay, well we gotta dig into this because this is an album that I think a lot of Elvis fans may have skipped over the years, especially younger Elvis fans. You might not be as familiar. There's not a lot of big hits on here, but there are some great stuff here.
Also, if it was my choice, I would call it Elvis Without Love and him pointing off screen somewhere.
Despite this one also having the black background and him in silhouette, it's actually nice. I actually do like this cover.
Striking.
It's
black and white image of Elvis with the bold red.
Yeah, and the guitar, and I really actually do like the cover design.
Fortunately, we see the seeds of what's coming later.
Right. Well, I mean, it's got to start somewhere, and I mean, the first is the best. So everything else is just a pretender. This is the original of that.
That's true.
So
even the one that in person had that black and white image going on for it.
Kinda, yeah.
All right, so should we start discussing each song as we normally do?
Side A.
'Cause the north wind flows through my veins. Like my dad, there's a dream in my brain. In the morning I'll have to leave again. That's how it is when you inherit the wind. Inherit the wind.
So, Inherit the Wind. What do you think?
Yeah, Eddie Rabbitt's song, same guy who wrote Kentucky Rain. Eddie Rabbitt had this very cinematic sensibility as a songwriter at this point. Same with Kentucky Rain. Does a wonderful job of... it's not quite a story song, but he has crafted it in a way where it feels like it's like you're listening to a movie. It's the story about how this guy has to follow his adventurous spirit, that he inherited from his father.
Yeah. I mean, Elvis puts a lot of emotion into this song, as he normally does. But I still got to say, I don't like that lyric. I think I brought this up when this was your song of the week, where, like my dad, there's a dream in my brain.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, it's odd. And I think I even said I would come up with alternate lyrics.
And you haven't? 2 years later, you haven't?
I was thinking, he can say, like my dad, this dream never wanes.
That one doesn't have the same...
Why not?
It doesn't have the same gel.
Like my dad, this dream never wanes. Way better than like my dad, there's a dream in my brain.
I don't know.
Someone
what do you guys think?
Who can sing like Elvis, sing those lyrics, and I'll guarantee you it sounds better.
But
look at me rewriting Eddie Rabbitt and thinking I'm all that.
What's interesting though is that speaking of that line, there's actually Elvis gets the lyrics wrong at one point in the second chorus. Yeah, in the second chorus, he actually says, "There's a dream in my vein."
Yeah.
So I'm surprised they left that
it's in. Like the north wind flows through my veins, like my dad. There's a dream in my, and then he goes vein again.
Yeah.
I hardly knew his face. Mama, she cried for him at night. He never stayed in one place. 'Cause the north wind flows through my veins. Like my dad, there's a dream in my vein. In the morning I'll have to leave again.
Yeah, so
it's just I thought it was weird that they left that in there. And
it had a single potential, I think.
Yeah, totally. I think it could have had
maybe Without Love.
Yeah, definitely. But unfortunately, just kind of sat on this album as the lead. And what do you think of it? Like, it's the first song on the album, so you drop the needle down on side A. This is the first thing you hear. What is this? What is this set? I mean, usually when you listen to an album, you want that first one to really grab you. When this grabs you, how does it make you feel?
It's not really down. It's like his sound has evolved, and it's more in line with the stuff from like the late '60s, early '70s.
Yes,
and I like this new mature Elvis sound. I'd be like, wow, this is really good. It grabs you. Right.
That's the thing, is that it's especially compared to the previous album from Elvis in Memphis.
Yeah.
Whereas that one, like, it comes in like a bat out of hell with wearing that loved on look.
Yes.
I honestly think this one...
Reflective.
It's more reflective, and it's maybe... And we'll talk about this more later as we're kind of summarizing what we think, but this may be Elvis's most mature album, I think.
Yeah. How would you classify this song?
How would I classify? I
Is
mean,
it like country?
It's
pretty heavy country.
So that's the
guitar
thing.
riffs.
It's technically country. It has a little bit of a folk bent, but it's still too soulful to really, be held in that genre.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let's go on to the next song.
Yeah.
This is the story. Wow. Oh man, love this song. I love that chorus. The chorus makes this song like it's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And instrumentation is superb with the violins and the background vocals. Have you ever listened to the live version?
Yes.
Very sparse.
Yeah. What I find fascinating about this one is that it is a waltz. It's this very low key waltz.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
It's literally a waltz. It's da 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 da.
An open fire, my favorite chair. I get a book from the shelf, but the words I am reading could apply to myself. This is the story.
This is the story.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you could say it's a waltz.
Of a man.
I like in the live version where it's like open fire and Elvis makes that guitar sound. I mean the gun sound.
Yeah. This
Now,
is.
how would you classify this song? A waltz?
I mean,
a country waltz?
So a waltz is just a description of like the time signature, but in terms of genre, again, it has a little bit country, a little bit of soul and gospel. But the thing,
sound like Donnie and Marie.
I would,
a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll.
But so here's the thing: if this was in anyone else's hands but Elvis's, because this was written by Chris Arnold, David Martin, and Jeff Morrow, who they were European. I believe they were from the United Kingdom, but they were much more in the pop field. If you handed this song to someone like B.J. Thomas or Tom Jones, this would be pure, easy listening stuff. But Elvis is just too soulful, with just enough of a country edge for it to be easy listening in the traditional sense. Mm-hmm. This is the thing that we're going to get to. Like, this album transcends a genre, and I've talked about this before when I did a review of this on Blue Suede Reviews of this album. But I really do feel that this is, like, I've talked before, even on the show, about From Elvis in Memphis kind of being Elvis as a genre. But this one is outside of that even.
Yeah.
What do you think of Stranger in My Own Hometown? This is the first really, really upbeat song that we get on here.
What a great song. Like, that drum intro, along with the horns in the background, are amazing. You're thinking like, oh shit, we're going to hear something special now, son.
I'm like a stranger in my own hometown. I'm like a stranger in my own hometown. My so-called friends stop being friendly. Oh, but you can't keep a good man down. No, you can't keep it.
Has Elvis sounded better in the late 60s than this? Like, bluesy and raw, and all I gotta just say is like, why didn't he record more songs like this? Like, we were talking about Tom Jones last week, and you were saying he's a great vocalist and all that, but he can't do this. Like, his blues sound like a white dude singing the blues. You listen to Elvis, you're like, I don't know how this dude has like this black soul somewhere inside, but he does. That's the difference between him and Tom Jones.
Yeah, totally.
So good.
What I love about the horns and the strings is that they make it. I mean, it's pure Memphis soul, but it sounds almost like something out of a '70s cop show.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I just and I love how Elvis gets riled up and he starts like screaming at the top of his lungs.
I like that.
towards the end
I
of the
like that.
song.
He gets into it. He starts like shouting at the musicians, like, "Give me a clap and go wild, man."
Yeah.
Like a stranger in my hometown. I'm like a stranger in my hometown. My so-called friends stop being friendly. Oh, but you can't keep it going down. No, you can't keep it. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
And so, like, what do you think of this as a Percy Mayfield cover? And as you know, like the song is clearly about like this guy. Well, I mean, feeling like a stranger in his own hometown. Yeah. But again, not a positive song at all. It's very unsettling when you actually listen to the lyrics.
Yeah, yeah. I just love those drums, though. Those are so good. Like, I can be sleepy and tired, and I don't need coffee. I just play this song, and like I'm wide awake. And I like how all of Elvis's influences on kind of display here, especially the R&B ones.
Yeah, and you get that like driving bass line, and it's like it kicks in. It's like boom, 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 boom. Good stuff.
Yeah. Excellent song. Let's move on because we're gushing way too much.
I
about
know
the last
that's the problem. So like when we review albums, usually like we're able to like nitpick a little bit. We kind of get some. I'm sorry.
Well, I did nitpick the original, the first track.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even that was just like that's just one little lyric. That was generally this whole song is great. Anyway, a little bit of green. What do you think?
Well, I certainly don't feel a little bit of green about this song because this is great.
Just a little bit of green clouds my eyes to what I see. Just a little bit of green when I see you with someone new, and knowing that there's nothing I can do.
It's a ballad, isn't it? Is it considered a ballad?
Again, from the Arnold Martin Morrow songwriting team. Yeah. This is another one of those kind of, again, could be easy listening in someone else's hand, but Elvis takes it up a notch, you know? But yeah, it's a ballad, but it's him, you know, it's someone feeling the pang of jealousy, you know, seeing a love with someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say this, like this is another top song. To me, it almost sounds like a Motown track, like maybe a little Smokey Robin-ish.
Yeah, I can kind of hear that.
Yeah, and that instrumentation is top notch, like really groovy. Although I wonder, back in the day, if people thought a little bit of green was, what were they thinking? Maybe it's a little bit of weed, a little bit of that chronic. Like, yeah, man, a little bit of green. That's my imitation of a 70s dope addict.
This was not the Elvis weed song. We all know that was rubbernecking.
Okay, there we go.
Along came Mary Jane with somebody else.
You know what's funny is the next song is "And the Grass Won't Pay Me No Mind." You're like, wait a second, I see a theme here going on.
Come unto me, your hair softly falling on my face as in a dream, and the time will be our time, and the grass won't pay no mind.
Now, In the Grass Won't Pay No Mind, the Neil Diamond song, the structure of the song is so Neil Diamond that it almost hurts.
Yeah.
You have that kind of thumping bass line. You have the very mellow, low-key verses, and then there's sort of a ramp up, and then the chorus just comes in. I love that ramp up. Yeah, and then the chorus comes in, it's just like, bam! You know, it's like in Sweet Caroline.
in the face.
It's like in Sweet Caroline, where you get this you get this kind of build up where it begins, and then you get up and up and up and up, and then finally you get the chorus, and it's like Sweet Caroline, Ba, ba, ba. And that's
Remember
what
that I sent you the Neil Diamond doing a version of Sweet Caroline, but he changed the lyrics because of this whole COVID-19 thing.
Yeah, sort of a won't touch me, won't
Don't
touch
touch me.
Yeah.
I won't touch you.
But yeah, so the same thing again. This is like it's like I was saying. This is very much you can hear the Neil Diamond in the structure of the song and the melody and the way it's written. But Elvis takes it and really he makes it an Elvis song. You know, you can still hear Neil's influence there, but Elvis has enough of that gospel influence that comes in on this.
Child, touch my soul with your cries, and the music will know what we found. I hear 100 goodbyes, but today I hear only one sound. The moment we're living is now. Now.
Because there's nothing wrong with Diamond's version of this.
No, you go back and listen to it, and it's great.
It's just what you prefer. Like, I prefer Elvis vocally.
Yeah. What did you think of the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra version of this when that came out?
I like that one as well.
I was surprised that they went for such a deep cut.
Yeah, but I think that one gets too busy. I do like it, though. Like, instrumentation kind of overpowers Elvis, but I do like it. I don't know what you think.
No, I actually really like it, and I like it just for the fact that that album was so popular in a lot of places, particularly in the UK, and people were being, introduced to this Elvis song that very few people I think ever heard, because this is smack in the middle of this album that was like the B album to this live album. But this album, is, again, we keep going through this, and it's just so consistently good. And again, lyrically, the song is not a very upbeat song. It's a little more up-tempo than some of the other songs on this album, but not nearly as much as Stranger in My Own Hometown or From a Jack to a King. But
Well, let's flip the side over.
Yes, it's been quite a while, and it's so good to see you again. It's so dark in this place that I can't see your face. May we leave? Oh, I see. Does he know who I am and what once was between you and me?
So, do you know who I am? Another great track, but man, this thing is depressing.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this is the story in terms of like it's this sort of longing, melancholy performance, but it's even more intimate and personal. The instrumentation is very sparse, and you really understand this to be a conversation. What the image that kind of comes in my head is like it's one side of a conversation of like these two people at like an evening gathering, like they're at like a party or a dinner or something, and he sees that she came with this other guy at the end, and he's trying to feel out like where she's at, and do you still recognize me for the person that I was, and that I still care about you, and that's. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you listen to this after a breakup, you'll be in tears. Don't listen to this.
Yeah, it is quite. It's quite sad. This is a great breakup album, by the way.
It's interesting to open with this, though. Maybe I would have picked another song to open with. On
side 2? I mean, when you really think of it, so like if you listen to this on CD and you roll from In the Grass Won't Pay No Mind to Do You Know Who I Am, I think that's perfectly fine as a transition.
Yeah, that's true. But if we're back in the vinyl days, I don't know.
So this is the thing. We have to think of this as an album. It's a cohesive listening experience. From beginning to end, all the way through. We've talked before about, is Elvis's best album? Is From Elvis in Memphis Elvis's best album? Is Back in Memphis Elvis's best album? It might be. It might be.
Maybe some other time, in some other place, with our love in your heart and a smile on your face, you will know who I am. When that time comes, you know who I am. You will know who I am when that time comes. You know.
Well, we'll decide at the end. Next song. Now, you wouldn't think I'd like this, but man, Elvis sings the hell out of From a Jack to a King. Like,
Yeah.
It's so good. And when he starts to hit those high notes, man, like, wow. And then, like, when he's talking about the twinkle in her eyes part, and he starts scatting. Like,
Yeah.
what is that? In jazz, you do scatting?
Yeah.
It's great. It's excellent.
Oh, for just a little while, I thought that I might lose a game. Oh, but just in time I saw that twinkle in your eye. From a jack to a king.
So this was actually recorded sort of as a lark because Vernon visited the studio because obviously American was there in right there in Memphis, not far from Graceland. So Vernon stopped by and Elvis knew that Vernon really liked this song, and so Elvis decided to just kind of play around with it. And almost initially, you kind of get a feel that he might not be taking it as seriously, and he's not. I mean, he's having fun, and he's even got that kind of jokey la 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 la
Yeah.
la 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 la.
Yeah.
But they actually, interestingly, when they added the overdubs, they actually made that part of the song. Like they had the female singers add that, like
Yeah.
to what they did.
Are you made of me king of your heart? La da 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 la 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 da 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 la la.
Did you ever hear the original by Ned Miller?
No, I haven't. I
really
heard
good.
the Ricky Van Shelton one.
Oh, like I like the original too. Like that. Like that's my style of country music. If you give me From a Jack to a King, I can listen to country music all day.
From a jack to a king, from loneliness to a wedding ring, I played an ace and I won a queen, and walked away with your heart.
But yeah,
That's
this is so like I mean again it's lyrically maybe the most upbeat song on the album because he he does at the end he gets married to this gal and stuff like that, but it's still like I don't know, to me this one doesn't fit the rest of the album as much,
Right.
but it still works because they needed an upbeat song
Yeah,
on this side.
And Elvis pulls this off effortlessly.
Yeah.
Or so it seems. Maybe it's not effortless. The Fair's Moving On. Now, this is the only song on the album that I'm kind of lukewarm on. Like, the chorus is good, and Elvis picks it up a little bit, but I don't know. The lyrics are kind of odd. Like, who cares if the Fair's moving on? Do you like the song?
I really, really like this song. In
Really?
fact, I may have to go pick this as my song of the week sometime in the near future.
Maybe I'll
because-
have to.
Because the guys
Check
that
that.
wrote this, Guy Fletcher and Doug Flett, they wrote actually several other songs that we've had as songs of the week. They did "Wonderful World," which was one of your, from "Live a Little, Love a Little." They did
Right.
"Just Pretend." They did "Mary in the Morning." And so "The Fair's Moving On" is kind of a story song, and Elvis had very few story songs in his career, but this is one of them, and it does this great job of painting this picture. And it's, again, when you look at, a lot of people, this is the thing between it from Elvis in Memphis and back in Memphis is, I think that From Elvis in Memphis is more of what you would traditionally think of as an Elvis Presley album. It's a lot more rock and roll. It's a lot more country. It's a lot more rhythm and blues.
Good mix.
It's a good mix if you want an Elvis album. This is Elvis doing material that was progressive for him creatively. This was
Yeah.
something that, you're used to hearing Elvis songs that are very simple lyrically, they're very simple melodically. This is not by any means a simple song. There are complex emotions going on in this, and the idea of them, being at this carnival and him having to, pack up and go.
Yes, the fair's moving on, and I'll soon be gone. Remember the love that we've known. Yes, the fair's moving on, but I won't leave you alone. It's the last time you'll be on your own.
the song that this sometimes reminds me of is there's a Garth Brooks song called "That Old Wind" from his album Fresh Horses, and it's not exactly the same story, but it's sort of got the same feel of like it's about this musician who came into town at one point and met this woman, and they had a fling, and now he's come back into the town, and before he leaves he finds out, you know, that he's got a son that he never knew about, and it's just all these kind of adult emotions and feelings wrapped up in this ballad, and that's what you get from The Fairies Moving On.
Sounds like a movie.
It does, totally.
And he asked her twice to come along. And they said goodbye at the break of dawn. As his bus left out, she cried, with him standing by her side. That old wind that once again found its way home.
As I said, it's not a song I skip. I would skip because Elvis sings it so well, but the only thing is I'm not as engaged as I am with the other songs on the album.
Sure.
But I still do like it. And this was the B-side to Clean Up Your Own Backyard, wasn't it?
So they felt it was pretty strong.
Yeah.
Not as strong as they felt about the next one.
Yeah, so the next one over. You'll Think of Me. Now, let me ask you something. Is it just me, or does that opening kind of remind you of Hooked on a Feeling by B.J. Thomas? I get
a little
totally
bit.
get
Well,
that.
and it's
Totally
because
get that.
it's because the sitar playing on it is very similar.
I'm sorry now, girl, but I must leave you. There's something deep inside my soul keeps calling me.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, is this the...
I like the sitar.
Yeah, no, it sounds really good. And this is one of the few Elvis songs that actually features a sitar. So it feels very much of its time, you know, very 1969.
I wish Elvis recorded that.
Yeah, well, I mean, and we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
That would have been fantastic. And
Now,
I mean, Hooked on a Feeling was produced by Chips Moman.
Yes.
And recorded at American. In fact, it's probably the same players, the Memphis boys.
Reggie Young?
Yeah,
played the sitar?
it was probably Reggie that was also on Hooked on a Feeling.
I'm like, wait a second. Now, this was the B-side to Suspicious Minds.
Yes.
And
That was actually...
It totally got overshadowed.
That was where I first heard this, was on the 45, the vinyl 45 of Suspicious Minds. Flip it over and there's...
You had the vinyl
Yes.
of
In fact,
I have 45.
I have 2 copies, in fact.
Why do you have 2 copies of Suspicious Minds 45?
I was actually gifted a copy, so...
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. I like that cover, too.
Yeah.
That single.
But this actually came from Mort Schumann.
Yeah.
And, you know, he hadn't cut a Mort Schumann song since the mid-'60s, I think 66.
Pomus.
Yeah, and it was one of the, you know, one of the collaborations, but to my knowledge, I don't think he ever cut another Mort Schumann song.
Yeah.
And this is Mort doing it on his own. Like, Doc Pomus is nowhere to be found, and it's surprisingly... you know, it's very strong. Like, I really do think, and in fact, in the outtakes, if I remember correctly, they talk about, was it the outtakes, or I was also reading about these sessions in Ernst Jorgensen's A Life in Music, so that may be where I heard it, but they thought that this could have had real hit potential, even as sort of a minor, like, top 10 or top 20 hit, which is why they had it as the B-side to Suspicious Minds.
Just like I wanted, I know you followed me across that angry sea, but baby, I've got a heart that's haunted
Yet in your cold and empty bed, you think of me, ooh, yeah, you think of me.
What do you think? Do you think it could have been, should have been?
Yeah, almost all of these songs could have had single potential, I think.
Yeah.
That's how strong they were. But the next song, that definitely had single potential.
Right.
What a way to end this excellent album. Is there much more to add to this song than we previously have talked about and gushed about?
I mean, not much to add. Other than
I can. Yeah, go.
Other than it's just so good. Go listen to it. Go listen to Clyde McPhatter's original. This was my song of the week back on episode 52.
I hate the fact that you took this. I so would have gotten to this.
But no, I mean, this is the perfect ending to this album of love and loss. And Elvis really takes, Clyde McPhatter's original delivery and just amps it up to 1969 levels.
Without love, I have nothing at all. I have conquered the world, but what then did I have? Without love, I had nothing at all.
Man, this is spectacular. This may be the best song on the album.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I can't remember which version I heard first. Was it this or Clyde McPhatter's? Maybe Elvis's, but it's really close because I got this album in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And at that time I was also heavy into buying oldies compilations, and I had a bunch of Drifters and stuff and Clyde McPhatter compilation, so I don't know.
You had a bunch of the Drifters. How many Drifters did you have?
A lot of Drifters. As I said in the past, I think this is a perfect song. And the only thing we differ on is which version we prefer. Because I lean towards the McPhatter, and you like the Elvises.
I do.
And it's really, there in this argument there really is no loser because
they're both winners. I mean,
Elvis puts so much soul and passion into this. And he listened to McPhatter's version a lot.
Oh, yeah. It's very much informed by Clyde's original.
Speaking of Tom Jones, did you ever hear his version of this?
Yeah. Yeah, actually.
He has that opening dialogue in the beginning before he starts singing.
Yeah.
It's like, why you add that? It's already a good song.
It's different. But
really
vocally,
I know though.
Vocally, it's not bad though. That's the thing. Like whatever you have to say about Tom Jones in his presentation, man, he's got chops. But
you think he oversings it though?
I mean, he oversings everything. He's Tom Jones.
Yeah, I guess.
But that's our bonus content later.
You can't touch McPhatter.
We're talking about this album.
Yeah. Great way to end the album.
So how do you feel revisiting this album? When was the last time you listened to this? And when was the
whole thing? Beginning to end?
Yeah.
Oh, years, maybe 10 plus years.
Wow.
I'll go back to tracks.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these are on my rotation, but they're not in this order.
Yeah.
So, this is such a great album. This is tough. Whether it's this or Elvis Is Back, I don't know. I think I'd slightly, like an inch or two, lean toward Elvis Is Back just because it has more doo-wop and it's just it has more of my sensibilities, but man, ever so slightly, because this is so great. It's one of those I can't. I need your coin to toss to see which one I like better. Let me guess, you like this one better.
I do really. To me, this is my favorite Elvis album, and I would go to bat for this album as the best Elvis.
You fight
album.
somebody.
I don't know that I would physically fight someone, but I would have a great debate with someone. Because here's my thing. I think that it is Elvis's most artistically interesting, emotionally, lyrically evocative, experimental. You hear things on this album like "The Fair's Moving On" and "You'll Think of Me," and even stuff like "Then the Grass Won't Pay No Mind," where he's doing, it's a straight Neil Diamond cover. Like, he makes it his own, but it's pretty straightforward. But it's not really something that was Elvis-y, and that's when you go back and you listen to From Elvis in Memphis, or you listen to Elvis Is Back. They're both what you would still kind of traditionally think of as Elvis albums. They kind of use rock and roll and Elvis's gospel influence as a crutch. I think. That's not to say, again, literally we're talking about three of Elvis's best albums. But to me, I feel that while From Elvis in Memphis is very strong, it's still almost a semi-stereotypical Elvis album because it is so innately Elvis. It encapsulates everything musically that Elvis was. And that's why I will point people to that album as like if you want a primer on where Elvis was at the peak of his career, where he was most confident and assured of himself, go to that album.
I would actually say, though, that wasn't the peak of his career. I think 57, 58 was the peak of his career.
Well,
because he had gone and then he was coming back.
Right.
In 57, 58, he was it. Like, he was the top of everything. Everybody knew Elvis. Everybody listened to Elvis. In 68, people were going.
Okay, let me put it this way: not the commercial peak of his career, the artistic peak of his career.
Maybe artistically, yes, I agree with that.
Okay, so and to that point, Elvis Is Back. I think, as I've said multiple times on the show before, I think it is the best Elvis 50s album you could ever possibly get. If you want a perfect snapshot of what Elvis was, could be musically in the 50s, what he meant to people musically, you cannot get better than Elvis Is Back, even more than Golden Records, which we just had that debate on the live show.
Let's not start that again.
But looking at all those 50s covers that he was doing, the rhythm and blues stuff like a Baby and Reconsider Baby, the older song like Fever, Such a Night, that's the perfect Elvis 50s album if you want to go back and see what Elvis was like in the 50s in a cohesive musical environment. If you just want like literally his best stuff from the 50s, obviously get the Golden Records compilation. But to me, Back in Memphis is Elvis's best album because it stands alone as an album, and it actually is consistent and coherent and strikes a theme and a tone, even more so than Elvis Country, which we've reviewed.
Do you think
on the show.
this is his first concept album?
It's not a concept album in a traditional sense because it's not really. If they had gone with the title of Without Love, that might have pushed it over the edge. But I really do think that even more so than Elvis Country, because like Elvis Country, like when we reviewed it last year. I think sometimes vocally he's not the strongest. I think sometimes the arrangements are not all there. Sometimes the track listing is a little illogical even. Like, there's no reason that Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On should be on the Elvis Country album.
Yeah, it was thrown in there.
But every song on this album belongs on this album. And it confounds me why it was kind of stuck on the backside of this. And I know that we'll probably get pushback from some listeners who feel that this album is subpar, or that
really, who would say that,
or that it even that it has its appropriate place on the backside of this live album. But I really do think that this is if you forget that Elvis Presley exists and forget his 50s hits, forget his early 60s hits, forget his movies, some new dude from Memphis named Elvis Presley starts recording at American Sound in 1969 just for giggles and drops this album in 1969, what do you think would happen? It would be a massive hit.
Oh yeah.
Because
it's that good.
Yeah, it's that good. And it's just, to me, I think it is, again, it is definitely my favorite. I have, asking you the question about how often, or when was the last time you listened to this? Regularly, I listen to this album whole.
Oh, really?
All the way through, from top to bottom. Because
nice.
to me, it's gotten to where these songs flow with each other.
Nice.
That's to me, this is the Elvis listening experience. Where it all, the way I described it on the episode where I reviewed this for Blue Suede Reviews is like, this is all, I was pulling from a quote of a review of Way Down in the Jungle Room that someone else had done, but the description that they had of Elvis's voice is liquid sorrow. And this is
perfect.
This is the Liquid Sorrow album. And that's why I feel this is Elvis's best, is that it's the most consistent. It doesn't use there's no crutches. It's just a fantastic album from beginning to end. And that's the way it is.
That's the way it was. I totally agree. This is a really solid album, and for listeners who haven't listened to it, like from the first to the last song on the album, listen to it. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's you can pick songs out of it, but I guess it's true that you don't get that same listening experience when you listen to the album. Because that Without Love is never left my rotation.
Yeah.
And it always comes back over and over because I love that song so much.
Totally.
Cool. Awesome. Well, that was our discussion of Back in Memphis. Let us know what you guys think about this album. What do you think it's his best album? If not, why? What is? Why? Let us know. How can they let us know?
tcbcast@gmail.com or on Facebook or Twitter.
Cool. All right. Let's go crying to Song of the Week.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, Elvis Presley.
Well, since my baby left me,
Well, the memories are lingering in my heart.
ooh, I feel my temperature rising.
He wrote upon it, return to sender, address unknown.
But the man who can sing when he hasn't got a thing, he's a king of the whole wide world.
Las Vegas.
So I picked from Fun in Acapulco again is The Bullfighter Was a Lady.
Pedro the bull was a killer, king of the bullfight arena. He'd wipe up the floor with each brave matador, then have matador stew for his dinner. He heard the crowd shouting, ole, ole! When he met his master that day. The bullfighter was a lady, and it was true love at first sight.
Written by Roy C. Bennett, said Tipper, who I talked about in the past, because they also wrote Song of the Shrimp, which I think is similar to this song. It's charming and funny, and a lot of people don't like it. It's like a sequel to that. They also wrote GI Blues, Mexico, The Lady Loves Me, and Western Union, which we use for our listener feedback.
Yeah, click and clack.
Nice. Yeah. That in itself is like a sequel to Return to Sender, although vastly inferior.
Yes, very much so.
So the song was recorded on January 22nd, 1963 at Radio Recorder, Studio B in Hollywood. This is during those Fun in Acapulco sessions. Now, I know. People are going to say this is a silly song, but I like it. I like it because it's silly and because Elvis sings it with complete sincerity. It's funny and kind of sad, just like Song of the Shrimp. Silly premise in both songs, but they have this underlying sadness about them. The Pedro is like a vicious bull who would destroy all the matadors. He'd make matador stew out of them until he comes upon a female bullfighter, and he was smitten. You know what? It's almost like the story of the Beauty and the Beast or even King Kong.
Yeah.
Because if you ever seen that original 1933 version of King Kong, which is it opens with this scroll or a quote, which is it's credited as an old Arabian proverb, which is not really because it just came from the guy who made King Kong, Marion C. Cooper. But this is how it goes. And the prophet said, and lo, the beast looked upon the face of beauty, and it stayed its hand from killing. And from that day, it was as one dead. And that totally applies here, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, Pedro does not have a happy end.
His fate is the same as King Kong's, but his tail ends up hanging at a door.
I was about to say, his is even a little more brutal because you actually see the corpse hanging right over her door. Ooh,
the girl who caused it, she actually relishes in it.
Yes.
As opposed to King Kong. But this is sad stuff, but I like that the song mixes comedy.
Yeah.
With, the people were starting to hiss, but Pedro just wanted to kiss. It's like a mix of comedy and melancholy.
He once was a mad bull, a wild and a bad bull, but now he was mild as a kitten. The people were starting to hiss, but Pedro just wanted to kiss. The bullfighter was a lady, and Pedro, he liked what he saw. He floated on air with a rose in his hair as he waltzed with that sweet matador.
What do you think about the song?
No, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. It's a nice comedic song. It makes it, honestly, it fits better on the album than it does in the movie.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
This is one of those few soundtracks where we need to do a review of the movie because I remember liking the movie and liking the story of the movie, but also feeling like a lot of the songs were shoehorned in just to have songs that are of that flavor, and yet the album is also really strong for being all, kind of Mexican themed songs. Definitely not a lot of Mexican influence on the songs, but Mexican themes on the songs.
I think it's a strong album, like similar to Girls, 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 where a lot of songs are really good on it.
On its own, if it wasn't tied to a movie, it could almost be a concept album.
Yes. Do you remember the first time you heard this?
Would have been in the movie itself.
Yeah, so you saw the movie first, and then you heard the album. Yeah, same here. Because this is one of those albums that I couldn't get. They didn't reissue it in the 80s. It only came out in that double features in the 90s, I think. It happened at the World's Fair.
Yeah.
So it took a while for me to listen to this. But yeah, as I said, I love everything about the song. The instrumentation is great with the added trumpets and percussion. And Elvis always sounds good with these Mexican tunes, doesn't he? With the Amigos. Mm-hmm. Sound great backing him up. Anyway, so they did 9 takes of this record version, with the master being a splice of takes 9 and 7. Take 1 is a false start. Elvis gets surprised with the ole from the beginning by the Amigos. And then take 2 is a long false start. This one is awesome. I love this. At the end, when Elvis goes, her red cape was waving, but Pedro was shaving. He wanted to F her that night. And then he proceeds to lose it. So funny.
Bullfighter was a lady, and it was true love at first sight. Her red cape was waving, but Pedro was shaving. He wanted to fuck her that night. Hold it a second, man.
When I heard that the first time, I started laughing out loud. It was great. And take 3 is fun because he gets to that same part and then he just starts laughing because he remembers what he said before.
Yeah.
And then it continues for the rest of the take. He gets the giggles. He can't stop. Take 4 and 5, both false starts, and we get a bit of Elvis rehearsing with the Amigos. And the next day, they went back in and recorded the film version of the song, but continued the same take numbering. And take 10, the music is more direct and to the point, like sharp, rather than laid back. And the Amigos are more present and louder. Elvis takes it slightly faster, but it's close to his previous night's vocals. Some of the phrasing is slightly different.
Pedro the Bull was a killer, king of the bullfight arena. He'd wipe up the floor with each brave matador, then have matador stew for his dinner. He heard the Howard shouting, ole. He heard the shout howling.
The next two takes are false starts, and take 13, I guess there was a problem with the ole, and Elvis goes, I never turned down an ole. I never turned it down. The master is of the film version is take 17. Both are good. Not sure which one I prefer, but, you know, they're both good on their own way. I've heard the record version much more.
Yeah, ditto.
And you can check all these out on that new, or is it new? I keep calling them new, the new FTD Fun and Acapulco sessions.
Newer. Like early last year.
There you go. Time doesn't mean anything to me anymore. So the song was released on the Fun and Acapulco soundtrack on November 15th, 1963. The Colonel was initially hesitant in RCA releasing the album because it only had 11 songs, and he was concerned about the viability in a downsized market. The previous years, it happened at the World's Fair, only had 10 tracks, and it didn't do too well. But he finally acquiesced and let RCA release it only if they added 2 more songs, which they did, Love Me Tonight and Slowly But Surely, which we talked about earlier. You can check out Elvis perform the song in the film. Pretty good. Elvis dressed up in almost like a bullfighter with all red, and then has a red sash. He's twirling around a cape. He also pulls out is it like those Mexican mini steps? I don't know what that dance is called, but it's nice. And we get that funny part at the end when he's twirling a cape and then eventually he just wraps around his face. So that's my song of the week.
Great pick, dude. No covers over the years? There haven't been
No. There's some, ETA stuff, but significant covers.
Nice. Well, good pick.
His fate was a bad one, his tail is a sad one, it's hanging right over her door.
All right, what do you got?
Okay, mine's a weird one. Okay. I don't know if you've actually heard this. My song of the week is "Leave My Woman Alone."
Leave My Woman Alone. Did I hear this? I don't know.
So this song, I'm sure you've heard the original version, was written and recorded originally by Ray Charles.
If you don't want, you don't have to. Get in trouble. If you don't want, you don't have to. Get in trouble. If you don't want, you don't have to. Get in trouble. Say you better leave my woman alone. Well, I know you are a playboy, and you've got women all over town. But listen, buddy, if you ever sweet talk my little girl, I'm gonna lay your body down. If you don't want, you don't have to.
Yeah.
In September 1956, it was the B-side for the single Lonely Avenue, and featured on the compilation album Yes Indeed, also in the 50s. This original version by Ray Charles is a really great R&B track. It kind of has this vibe it almost chugs along like a train, but Ray's voice is so...
Mystery Train?
Kinda, yeah. But Ray's voice is so cool and confident, and he does a lot of the song in like a lower, semi-spoken, semi-sung delivery. And then when he goes up and he starts singing, he gets into that high, that higher kind of raspy sound of his voice. And I mean, there's this huge gospel influence on it, especially towards the end of the song as you get in sort of a call and response. And I really, really love Ray Charles's original version.
Sorry, I just pulled it up while you were talking.
Yeah.
I have heard this. I have it in a Ray Charles compilation. I just couldn't I couldn't get the name, but I have definitely heard this song, and it's really good.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, aside from really good, what do you think of Ray's version?
It's great. That early Ray stuff is you can't beat it. It's really, really good. I remember when did I get this? Again, I think the 90s. All I was is like a spending spree of buying 50s artist compilations because that's all they came out. And this was one of those songs that stood out. And I was like, yeah, I wonder why Elvis never recorded it. Let us find out, Justin.
So in 1957, the first cover was done by the Everly Brothers on their self-titled album.
Well, I know you are a playboy and you town. But if I ever see you, sweet North, my little girl, I'm gonna lay your money down. But if you don't want, you don't have to get into trouble. If you don't want, you don't have to get into trouble. If you don't want, you don't have to get into trouble. You just leave my woman alone.
They pull it a little too far into the country genre, and
I think I heard this too.
They slow it down way too much, and it's I don't really care for it. They just don't have enough grit to pull this song off. I mean, it's you listen to the song, and it's this very kind of cocky, confident. It's telling the guy, leave my woman alone, or I'm gonna beat the crap out of you. And the Everly Brothers are.
Or if it was Justin, he would have discussions.
Yeah. But I mean, these guys, it's so non-threatening. They wouldn't even have discussions. I mean,
they would just run away.
Yeah.
Singing "Bye Bye Love."
They would be apologizing for saying anything.
They'd be waking up Susan.
So yeah, vocally it's not fine, but I don't really care for the arrangement. The Kingston Trio did a version on their 1960 album "String Along" with the Kingston Trio. It's a little more
folk version.
So actually, no, it's a little more faithful to Ray's version in terms of tempo, and their harmonies are pretty tight. It's just a little too clean cut and chipper. Like, it's almost like they're happy to be singing the song.
Well, I know you've got your money, and you've got a new convertible too. But if I ever see my little girl in your little car, I'm gonna do some work on you. Give it to me.
But it's not bad. It's not nearly as neutered as the Everly Brothers, but it's still they're a little too white to be singing the song. Now,
can you say that for Tom Jones too?
No. Bobby Darin, though, on his 1962 album, Bobby Darin Sings Ray Charles, actually does a really good version of it that's almost identical to Ray Charles's arrangement, and at moments almost sounds like he's sort of doing a Ray Charles impression.
Bobby Darin was known for his impressions.
Yeah, and it's a good homage back to Ray, but it's never it never tries to really challenge Ray's version either. It's just like, here, I'm paying homage. This is a song that he clearly loves perform, with all of Ray's material. That whole album is actually not too bad. Bobby Darin Sings Ray Charles. But, it's not bad. I like it.
Well, I know you are playboy, and you got your women all over town. But listen, buddy, if you ever sweet talk my little girl, I'm gonna lay your body down. Say if you don't want, you don't have to get in trouble. Now if you don't want, no, you don't want, you don't have to.
So, getting to Elvis's version was recorded for the Easy Come, Easy Go soundtrack, September 29th, 1966. This was actually deleted from the film. Originally, I guess it was planned to be in a scene in the discotheque in the movie, but no lead vocals were ever actually recorded. And it essentially sat in the archives for forever, but it did end up being released, and it surfaced on the Easy Come, Easy Go FTD in the early 2000s.
Get in trouble if you don't want to, don't have to. Get in trouble if you don't want to, don't have to. Get in trouble, well, you better leave my woman alone.
Now, what's interesting about this? Have you heard the I think you mentioned that you had heard this before, but what do you think of this instrumental version of "Leave My Woman Alone"?
I do like it. I just wish Elvis recorded it.
But did he?
Did he?
Did he?
Did he?
So interestingly enough, the way that it's mixed on that CD, The backing vocals by the Jordanaires are primarily on one of the two channels, the stereo channels. If you actually isolate out that channel, what is revealed is that not only are the Jordanaires singing, but so is Elvis Presley.
Really?
And in fact, you can hear Elvis singing bass throughout, and at multiple points he sings on his own.
Get in trouble if you don't want, you don't have to. Get in trouble if you don't want, you don't have to. Get in trouble, well, you better leave my woman alone. Trouble if you don't want to, don't.
Nice.
So yeah, at the 1 minute, the 1 minute 20 mark and the 1 minute 47 mark, he jumps in and starts with the "Well, if you don't want, you don't have to," and then they get in trouble with it. And then later on in the song, from about the 2 minute mark to the 2 minute 15-second mark, you can actually hear the Jordanaires say "Woman alone, woman alone," and in between. On the isolated version, you can actually hear Elvis say, my. Here's what that sounds like.
Get in trouble, well, you better leave my woman alone. 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 Get in trouble if you don't want, you don't have to. Get in trouble if you don't want.
Yeah.
Nice. You can totally hear him.
You can totally hear Elvis Presley singing back. He was there for the session that they recorded.
Why
this at.
did they not record vocals?
Lead
vocals.
The theory that's out there is that they may not have been able to get the rights for the song in time to feature it in the movie, and that Elvis just didn't need to cut it for the film. And, you know, it being 1966, Elvis wasn't really jonesing to be in the studio a whole bunch anyway. So, yeah, I think that probably is the best idea, the best theory about why Elvis never recorded lead vocals for it. But he was there, and it's also, that was actually the same session that he recorded a number of other songs for the Easy Come Easy Go soundtrack. She's a Machine, Yoga Is As Yoga Does, The Love Machine were all recorded at that session. So he was there. He was present.
There's no time for Leave My Woman Alone when you got to record Yoga as Yoga Does.
Yeah.
You know?
So what do you think of hearing
a song like this? Would have been great for him. Like he could have, you know, sunk his teeth into a song like this.
Yeah, so that's the thing that kills me is that, like, the arrangement is kind of pretty standard movie fare with the horn section and stuff, but just hearing that instrumental, if it had been recorded and had been released with Elvis's vocal on it, in the lead vocal, I think it would have been one of the strongest songs recorded. I mean, it was one of the strongest songs recorded for the soundtrack, and would have been, I think, up there with, like, Let Yourself Go as one of those very underrated, like, late 60s movie songs. You know, and it certainly harkens back to stuff like, you know, well, even Elvis's cover of What I Say in Viva Las Vegas, you know, where he's cutting, you know, a Ray Charles tune. It fascinates me that Elvis never went back and did the lead vocal, but at the same time, his voice is on that recording, and it's so clearly there. So, personally, I count this as an Elvis studio recording. Current classifications be damned, because it's listed as an instrumental on there. His voice is on the song.
His voice is on the song, so you got you can make an argument that
it's not even an argument. Elvis is literally singing the song.
Well, you got to isolate the vocal kind of to hear him.
Well, I mean, when you listen to the original version, I'll include some snippets of that too. And I mean, if you strain, you can hear him there, but it's more easily audible when you actually, you know, only listen to the, you know, if you got your earbuds in, pop off the one earbud. and you can hear Elvis better. But yeah, and so that was, there have been a few covers over the years, but most of them happened in the 60s. Elvis's was the one I really wanted to talk about. Notably, I know we've been stroking his ego a little bit lately, but on his Unfinished Business album, Jamie Kelly did actually cut a version with the Jordanaires. And it's actually a pretty good version of it. It's kind of in between Elvis's and Ray Charles' original, but it's not bad. It's not bad. They're actually doing a very different thing with their backing vocals than they did on Elvis's original version.
Oh, okay.
Well, I know you are a playboy, and you've got women all over town. Well, listen, buddy, if you ever sweet talk my little girl, I'm gonna lay your body down. If you don't want to, don't have to. You know you don't want, you don't have to. If you don't want, you don't have to. Say you better leave my woman alone. Well, I know you got your...
He digs a little more into the lyrics than any of the other covers from the early 60s, but you can definitely tell that Jamie is quite a bit younger. He's not as vocally confident in this recording. And he does change the lyrics, because obviously the original Ray Charles lyrics talk about a vehicle. You know, you've got a new 56-2, as in a 56 car, and he actually updates that to a new 2003-2.
Oh, does that work?
I mean, it fits well enough. He makes it fit. I mean, it's 17 years old as a reference now. But
I think you should have just stuck with the original lyrics.
But no, it's good. And there's some harmonica on Jamie Kelly's version that you would actually like. It's pretty good. So
cool.
No, check out that version on Jamie Kelly's Unfinished Business. Check out the original, absolutely Ray Charles. Bobby Darin's is probably worth a listen. And for sure on the Easy Come Easy Go FTD, check out Elvis's version of Leave My Woman Alone. It's unfortunate he never cut a lead vocal, but he is most definitely there on the studio.
How did you come across this as your song of the week?
I was looking through our list of songs of the week and looking through what we'd picked and what we hadn't, and I was just kind of poking through FTDs and trying to find one that was just a little odd,
right.
I was kind of thinking of like a movie song, and I was like, we haven't really talked about Easy Come, Easy Go. And in fact, please don't pick the song because I really want to do it, but I actually was going to pick Yoga Is As Yoga Does.
Oh, don't worry, I won't pick Wait, I did pick a song from Easy Come, Easy Go.
Yeah, but so
Take Love.
Yeah, we've only picked one song from Easy Come, Easy Go, but I was going to pick Yoga Is As Yoga Does. And I stumbled upon this as I was digging through the FTD because I was listening to the outtakes of Yoga Is As Yoga Does, and I was like, oh yeah, wait a minute, this Leave Me My Woman Alone thing is on here. And then as I started researching that, I was like, oh wait a minute, Elvis's voice is on this. Let me fiddle around
discovery.
with this. Yeah, totally.
Did anyone else ever bring this up?
Yes, and it's actually been mentioned. Keith Flynn's website has information that Elvis's vocal is on there. And I believe when I looked in Ernst Jorgensen's A Life in Music, it's mentioned that it was recorded. But that
I thought it was going to be another Johnny Cash where you're like, this is a discovery.
I mean,
Eureka.
This is probably the most isolated it's ever been heard on a podcast. But
I thought you were going to come running to me. Check this out. Check out this out. And I'm like, what's up? You hit uranium?
I love it.
Let's see who gets that reference.
So yeah, in the near future, Yoga Is As Yoga Does will be one of my songs of the week too. But
awesome.
For now,
can't wait for that.
For now, Leave My Woman Alone.
Excellent, great song.
Hang on.
I'm glad you brought back memories of my early Ray Charles collecting.
Nice. So, all right. Well,
all right. So how can everybody listen to us?
TCBcast.libsyn.com. They can find us on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and a whole bunch of other podcast platforms. And, of course, we're on Facebook. We are on Twitter at TCBcast. And you can shoot us an email at tcbcast@gmail.com if you have any feedback.
Nice. And then we'll have some kind of bonus episodes coming up, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's a hot time in Florida.
It's a rainy night in Georgia.
You've been listening to the TCBcast, an unofficial Elvis fan podcast. Justin Gosman and Gurdip Ladar have left the building.
Someone must have stomped on his head with those blue suede shoes.
Thank you and good night.